Around the world, thousands of women are having babies they cannot care for and are leaving them in the care of others. This is a sad reality, but fortunately, many of these children are fortunate enough to find themselves very quickly in foster care, where they are cared for a while. Katie Page, a young American girl, is one of those volunteers who decided to adopt a child after having taken care of him for a few months. But this young adoptive mother didn't know that she would have the surprise of her life after deciding, once again, to welcome a second child into her home. The story of this young mother, who was much talked about in 2019, is worthy of a beautiful novel, so much so that it was widely reported by the media. And today, we have decided to let you know about her incredible story. Let's get started. And if you like this video, don't forget to give us a like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell to receive all notifications. Let's go. Katie Page is a young American woman in her 30s who now lives in the state of Colorado. And like many people like her, this young woman has always dreamed of starting a family. But this dream seemed difficult to realize since, according to the doctors, she could not have children. The situation was so traumatic and stressful that the couple decided to divorce. The young woman in her early 30s has turned the page on her life as a couple, but Katie didn't know that other changes were going to change her life even more. Once divorced, the young woman makes such a courageous decision. She will leave Alabama where she lived and move to Colorado, where she plans to rebuild her life in a new home, with a new job, and, why not, adopt a child. But to tell the truth, the young woman might not have considered adoption if she had not received an email from the church she attended. In fact, the religious institution had sent a letter to the young woman, as well as to anyone interested in attending an information session on foster families. In short, this concerned people who would be interested in the idea of welcoming a child in difficulty into their home to care for him or her, or even to adopt him or her permanently afterward. The young woman then decided to attend this information session. But since then, the idea of welcoming a child into her home has continued to mature in her mind, despite the skepticism of her family and friends. Katie, who at first was scared at the thought of caring for a child, kept thinking about the idea, to the point that she eventually responded positively to the request and was put on the list of people who wanted to become a foster family. Katie's new life in Colorado becomes divided between her work and the children she takes in. In the space of 1 year, she has taken care of 4 children. And now she is more confident about raising a child forever. So, when she tells the social worker that she is ready to adopt a child permanently, the social worker calls her back sometime later to tell her that a 4-day-old baby needs a foster family. And without hesitation, Katie agrees to take in the little boy she will name Grayson, a child who was abandoned in the hospital by his mother only a few hours after his birth. The young woman takes him into her home and cares for him for 11 months. After that time, she finally signs the adoption papers and officially becomes Grayson's adoptive mother in May 2017. This young single mother sees her dream of starting a family come true. She can now experience the joys of motherhood forever. Of course, it weighs on her to have to tell Grayson one day that he was an adopted child, and that he was abandoned by his biological mother at the hospital where he was born. But for now, the young woman can enjoy life with her baby. However, the story of adoption is not going to end there. Only weeks after signing Grayson's adoption papers, Katie Page receives another call from the social worker. This time again, it is about a baby who was also abandoned by his birth mother just after he was born. Upon learning the baby's story, Katie discovers that there is a similarity between the baby and her son Grayson in terms of the conditions under which they were abandoned. The child, a 4-day-old girl, was in the same hospital where Grayson had been abandoned by his mother 11 months earlier. Now, Katie was already planning to expand the family by adopting a second child, but not right away as she had just adopted Grayson. However, when the social worker offered to take the little girl into her home, she accepted, driven by some intuition she couldn't explain. Hannah quickly becomes like a little sister to Grayson. However, Katie is beginning to realize that there are really strong similarities between the little boy and the little girl she has just taken in. First of all, there is a similarity in the conditions of abandonment of the 2 children, since both were left by their biological mothers in the same hospital. This is not to mention the physical resemblance between the 2 children that the young woman noted. But above all, other details intrigue the young adoptive mother. When she welcomed little Hannah into her home, Katie discovered on the little girl's medical bracelet that her biological mother has the same first name as Grayson. Also, the birth dates of the 2 mothers are almost identical, as they are only a day apart. The other detail that struck her, even more, is the fact that both children were exposed to some kind of illicit substance, probably while they were still in their mother's wombs. But for Katie, this could not have been a coincidence. Driven by her intuition, despite the little data she had, she decided to carry out her research to find Hannah's mother. But she has finally reappeared in the meantime and wants to take back her child. Contacted by the social worker who tells her that Hannah's biological mother wants to take back custody of her little girl, Katie agrees to meet with her. It is during this meeting that Hannah's mother reveals to the young woman that she has other children. Katie's investigation finally bore fruit. With all the clues of similarity between the two children, and what had just been revealed to her by little Hannah's biological mother, Katie discovers what she already knew: Hannah's biological mother is actually Grayson's mother. But to be completely certain of the blood link between Grayson and Hannah, she has both children undergo DNA testing. In the end, what she had doubted all along turned out to be right. The two children are indeed brother and sister. This news moved the young woman deeply. Katie, who hadn't considered having a second child right away after adopting Grayson, saw the biggest surprise of her life. She, who could have turned down the social worker's offer and not agreed to take little Hannah into her home, can congratulate herself for having listened to her heart rather than her reason. As soon as the truth was discovered, Katie began the process of adopting the little girl as well. For the young woman, there is no question of separating brother and sister. Since the two children have a fraternal bond, the adoption application is eventually accepted by the judges. In December 2018, 1 year and 7 months after adopting Grayson, Katie Page officially became Hannah's adoptive mother. The family grows and rejoices in the reunion of the children as they grow up together and become inseparable. The arrival of these two children has completely changed Katie's life, as she sees her two little ones growing every day and learning about the world around them. Far from being boring, their life as a threesome has become full of happiness. The young woman also discovers that her two adopted children have two other older sisters, Taylor and Edie Grace. The two girls, aged 8 and 5, were adopted by Casey and Dustin Whitney of Bartow, Florida. Not only does Katie learn about the two girls, but she also hears that a fifth child, a little boy named Jackson, who is only a few months old, is also part of the siblings. Besides their older sisters, Grayson and Hannah have another brother who was born 13 months after Hannah. So, the adoption story is far from over for Katie, as the young woman decides once again to adopt this little boy as well. She also says that the child would have ended up with another foster family if the social worker had not intervened in time. The little Jackson finds himself with his brothers at Katie's. For the young woman, the best gift she could give this child was to allow him to live with his brother and sister. She then began a third adoption procedure, and on June 25, 2020, when Jackson was just 1 year old, Katie Page officially became the little boy's adoptive mother. The official adoption ceremony, held via video conference, was attended by Casey and Dustin Whitney, the adoptive parents of the Taylor and Edie Grace sisters. The sisters also attended the official adoption of their little brother. Some time later, the full siblings were reunited when Katie Page and the Whitneys met with their adopted children for a vacation at sea in Florida. The Whitneys had stated that they were aware of the existence of Grayson, the little boy adopted by Katie. They had even tried to adopt Hannah to keep her with her sisters. But today, we can say with certainty that these abandoned and adopted siblings will never be separated. Today, Katie Page is a happy mother and the 3 children, aged 4, 3, and 1, are growing up and living together happily. What a great story, isn't it? Tell us what you thought of it in the comments.